Alrighty guys, so today is another weekend, and last weekend you saw us get this wire harness on. So today I'm planning to get a lot of work done. If you look over here, you'll see we have the transmission, I have my clutch kit, alternator bracket. So the idea today is to get the transmission on and flywheel, clutch, transmission on, and then actually take this engine, put it on the floor, and take the old engine, put it on the stand to kind of get it out of the way. And then next week, which is, for you guys, it's going to be the following week, then we're going to get the engine actually put back inside of the car. So that's actually exciting times, but today is going to be a lot of work just to kind of get those finishing touches done. So last video, like I said, you saw the wire harness. I mentioned that we had the two wires for the intercooler fan. And I told you I was going to put those plugs that I bought. So here's what the connection looks like. Wired up, put the wire loom, so it kind of looks nice and clean. And I kind of did the brackets just to get the crank sensor, O2 sensor, and the AC compressor all figured out in terms of how the brackets would work. So this is what the final setup looks like. So it looks pretty clean. And I went ahead and I bolted up the AC compressor and had it installed. Initially, I was gonna wait till I get the engine in and then put the stuff on, just from a weight perspective, just to have less weight to move around as we were trying to get this engine mounted back up in the car. But yeah, I figured, I'm just gonna send it. So I just went ahead and put everything on, and I'm gonna put the alternator on. Initially, again, I was gonna leave that off. But I am going to go ahead and put them on, so when I get the engine up, I'll just rest with it, get back in the car, and then everything will pretty much be bolted up. Because once the engine is in, everything becomes tight, and I don't have any experience with the 3SGTE being in the engine bay. Obviously, I could have seen the 5S, so I knew what space I had and what room I had to work with. But with this one, I figured with the turbo, it might be a little bit tighter, but I really don't know. So I'm just going to put everything together. So if you look over here, this is all the stuff again that I said that we had. This is the South Bend clutch. So I used the factory transmission plate. So this is one off the 5S. The 3SGTE one is the same, but it has a cutout right here, which I don't see the need for it, because honestly you would never be able to even get the cutout, and I'll show you in a second what I'm talking about. So anyways, I got a transmission cover nicely painted, so that's there. I did get the factory throwout bearing from Toyota. So this is it, and there you go. So just for safekeeping, I guess, I went with the factory piece. This kit from South Bend did actually come with one, but actually I'll show you the difference right now. So, because people are probably wondering, why did you go buy a new one or another one? So here is the one that came with the kit. And the difference is this thing looks like it's plastic, and the factory one, this is metal. So, this is just from reading comments. Everybody says the Toyota OEM one is better. I mean, honestly, they all move pretty smooth, but, again, it's a $50 part. So I figured I'd just, for insurance, just go with the factory piece. So that's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna have this one. I don't know, I'll sell it, keep it, or whatever. And this one here. The kit comes with the clutch alignment tool. We obviously have the, this thing is pretty heavy. Let me get this out. So we have the pressure plate. Pressure plate right here. And this is from a 3SGTE. So this is a hybrid kit. So essentially the pressure plate is from a 3SGTE, and then the disc is for a S54 transmission, because we have the S54 in this car. So this is what's gonna go inside the vehicle, and I'll show you what that looks like during the install, and hopefully I get it right. Hopefully I don't get it wrong, because I don't have to redo this. So if you see me do anything wrong, feel free to let me know. And we have the old, which looks pretty new, but this is the old throwout bearing that came with the kit and the clutch fork. So I gotta clean this up a little bit. That's the only thing left to be cleaned. And then I have brand new flywheel bolts and brand new pressure plate bolts. So the ones from the 5S won't work, so you gotta buy new ones. So I got these from Prime MR2. Pretty inexpensive, but let me see. There you go. So here we go. These are the new Flywheel bolts, and I'll put this installed, put the torque specs and everything, so everybody has that. So if you're doing this job, you know exactly what to do. All right. One thing that I also bought was, I was doing some research online and I was trying to figure out what's the best grease to use for the spline on the transmission. And I know you can't go crazy with the grease, but you gotta have the right grease so it doesn't splash all over and mess up your clutch. So my research, this Sachs kit, got this from Pelican Parts actually. So apparently this is the thing to use and specific for clutch and all of that stuff. So I went ahead and I bought this. I'm sure you can use something else, but you know, I wanted to go with what is recommended. So this is what I have, and you'll see where this comes in. And then we have the Flywheel. So this one came as crazy as it sounds. I bought this off of eBay. It's a Clutch Max clutch, and it was highly recommended by a well-known MR2 shop. So I won't mention the name because it's not their product, but you know, I bought this off Clutch Max. So it's like $100. So I mean, it's a pressure plate. I can't see if it's balanced. It should work fine. So I'm just gonna go ahead and use that. And then we have the alternator stuff here. So lot coming up. So I'll stop the talking and we'll start working. So let me just get this thing. I have to, if you see this Flywheel, it's actually treated in oil and it's put in the bag. So we have to use some brake cleaner just to clean that off. So I'm gonna clean that up. I'm gonna make sure this surface as well is cleaned with some brake clean so there's no slippage when we install this stuff. And again, get this clean. So let me clean this stuff up. So once we get started, it's just straight install and we'll go right into it. So stay tuned. All right, so I'm gonna use my Walmart special brake cleaner. And I'm just gonna spray some on the surface here of the pressure plate, just to get off any grease. And I was careful to use clean gloves so I don't have any grease on my hands being transferred to that. So super easy, just go at it. And I'm assuming, I don't know if a pressure plate from the factory is treated with anything, but I just want to make sure no grease is on this thing. I know for sure the Flywheel is covered in oil, which I'll show you in the bag when I remove it. So that's why I left that one to last. And we just go on. If you see my custom made pressure plate stand that I have here, specially designed for cleaning pressure plates. See the little rack right here? There you go. Take that off. Try to clean this thing till nothing comes off. And see white and getting better. One more, and I think I should be able to do it. Alrighty, so final wipe, and then we're gonna go get the Flywheel and clean that one off as well. Okay, look, now it's looking nice and clean, no dust, no residue. There you go. Alright, so cleaning is always fun. So you saw we cleaned up the pressure plate and the Flywheel. Just regular brake cleaner, and then I just used a paper towel. I went over it. I try not to use an old rag because, you know, that could have grease in there. So I figure paper towel is as good as it's gonna get. So hopefully that works. Now I'm gonna have to take the engine off of the stand to get the clutch kit on. So remember I mentioned I'm gonna put the alternator on. So I figure it's easier to just put the alternator bracket on before I get it off the stand. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And pretty simple. So you got the bracket here, I'll mention again, if you remember, we had grounded down right here of the intake manifold when we had taken this whole thing off, because this piece kind of comes out like this, and you're going to see if you didn't grind this down, basically this alternator bracket would not fit. So it goes on like this, and as you can see, just that little clearance, it gives you that clearance right there. You get the light. See, I mean, it's, if you look at it, it's like a millimeter right in here. It's just like a millimeter clearance, so you definitely got to ground that down. So if you're going to do the swap, just remember that little detail. Otherwise, if you, let's say you decide to put the alternator in after you put the engine in, then you're going to have to figure out how you're going to get a Dremel tool or something up there to grind that thing down, because this bracket will not fit. So just a quick pointer, just to avoid any hiccups. So 2 nuts on the top here. So that's what holds this in, the bracket. And then we have 3 bolts. You got a longer one that goes right here. And then you have 2 shorter ones that go down here on the bottom. So we're just gonna get these in by hand, and then we'll tighten them up. So let's see. Man, that thing is literally a millimeter away. I just kind of ground it. I ground it off before I had the engine out, so or the bracket off to do it. So this was all by ear, so it just kind of worked out. So that I'm happy with. So I just put some torque on this. I'm not gonna go crazy on this bracket. And then we are gonna go get the alternator on. All right, so 30 foot-pounds on all of these. I'm not sure the torque spec, but I figured 30 foot-pounds should be good enough. So seem pretty nice and tight. So that's what we did right there. So now I'm gonna get the alternator on, and we got this portion right here. It's gonna slip right into here. This bolt goes across. Should go in pretty easy, but it was painted, so it might take some wiggling. And this is why I'm putting this on now, because it's gonna be easier to do it when it's outside of the vehicle. I need to get my little hammer. There's some paint on this thing, so it might give it a... Let me get my hammer so I can... Let me get my little dead blow hammer so I can tap this thing in. So you take the alternator, put it from the top, and then it just slides down into this groove right here, and then this is the bolt. So just wiggle it a little bit to get the bolt in, so get everything lined up. There you go. Just gotta play with it a little bit. So we will get this threaded in. I'm doing this by hand because I have the power tool, but I want to make sure it goes in perfectly aligned. Yep, there you go. I'm not going to tighten it because I need a little bit of play. So when I get the belt tensioned, So this bolt goes in here, and once you get, basically the whole idea here is, actually, bolt goes through here, and this third thing right here. So this is what you use to adjust the tension. So belt goes on, and I haven't tightened up this crank pulley yet, so I'm not ready to put tension on this guy rod. But see, can't get it on, slide it forward. Let me loosen this up. Let me show you how this works. So this is able to move back and forth, right? And man, it's a good thing I did this. Look, check this out. So see this bracket from the 3S that was used for the wire harness? It's getting in the way of the alternator, so we're gonna have to bend this out of the way. And you see, these are things you don't see. You don't find that out until you start putting these things together. So we bend this out of the way, and that will give me enough clearance to allow this alternator to move forward. And I'll show you why it's important that the alternator moves forward. So we got that. And this is what gives you the ability to adjust the tension on the alternator. So see, we just slide it forward, you can take the belt off and put it back on. And then you're basically gonna pull it back. Use this screw, turn it down, and then lock. Once you get this turned down to wherever the tension is properly on this, then you tighten this bolt up and that locks it in place, and that's how you set the tension on the belt. So actually, let's just do it right now. I gotta get this crank pulley tightened down, and then we'll set the tension. And what I want to make sure is that these two bolts, for when I put the engine in, I have access to them, because we're gonna slip this over the engine mount and then tighten the bolts. Two nuts are gonna be down here. So I can put this on because I'll have enough clearance once I get the engine in the car. So, all right, so we'll probably just time lapse this. So you're gonna see basically what I'm gonna do is tighten this to lock the tension in so this thing doesn't move, and then we tighten this to set it. All right, now before I set the tension on this belt, I just wanna make sure this crank pulley is tightened up. So I just hit it with the impact gun, and honestly, I did it on the 5S and it worked fine, it didn't come loose, so I'm gonna do it right now. I'll probably check the torque spec later once I get the flywheel on. That way I can lock this thing, because the problem is trying to torque it without locking the flywheel. It's just gonna spin on you, but the impact will just shoot it in. So here goes. All right, so we're gonna call that good and tight for now. And like I said, I'll check the torque on that later on. Now this, let me show you how this works. So see, we have the belt, it's pretty loose. What I normally do is put the belt tight enough so that way I can just spin this. See how I can spin this all the way around? I tighten it so I just can spin it where it goes straight. And if I try, there's too much tension for it to twist around. So what you do is you turn this thing, and you're gonna see it tighten up. Let me just do it. So I'm turning this clockwise. See it's tightening up. And I'm just gonna keep checking it until I basically feel comfortable with what the tension is. And if you ever do this and if it's too tight, you could break the belt and mess up the pulleys. If it's too loose, you'll probably hear a little squealing sound. So see, now I'm turning this. It's right about where I want it, which is straight. And if I push on it, not much tension. And these belts, these are Bondo belts, and I find them to be pretty flexible, so I don't want to go too crazy tightening them. So I think that's going to be good enough. One more. Yeah, I'm going to leave it like that for now. I think I'm comfortable with that. And here's the play. So not too much play. All right. Again, if this thing slips and you hear the noise when you start up, and we're hoping it's going to start up, right? So you just basically turn the tension on this. But right now, I don't think it's too tight. If anything, it would be a little bit too loose. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to lock it in place by tightening this guy up. All right, so now the alternator is in place. So we tighten this final one at the bottom. And that is how you install your alternator on the MR2 Same way it goes on if it's off the car, but you get to see how, like, you get a good visual of what it looks like if you're trying to figure this out while it's in the car and you know you can't see anything and the space is tight. I'll just lock this guy in place. And that's it for the alternator. So now I'm gonna get the engine off the stand and we're gonna go jump right into getting the flywheel and clutch this on and then rest over the transmission to put that back on. So like I said, a lot of work today, but yeah, hang in there. Wow, that switching the engines was a pain. So you saw the time lapse there. Just putting this one on the floor, taking it off of the stand, and then putting the other one up and switching around. That's probably the hardest thing I did today. So, anyways, hopefully the clutch install here goes pretty smooth. So we're gonna start off with getting the cover plate on, and a lot of guys forget this, put the clutch on, and realize they gotta take everything off and put it back on. So remember, don't forget that thing. I am gonna show you the one that came with the 3S. So this is the one that came with the 3S. And as I was mentioning, it had this piece here that can detach, but I'm not gonna use it because if you put it on here, let's see, let's look at this. If I put this on and it bolts up, even if I don't know what's the purpose, because this thing is stuck in here, so you can't get it out anyways if the transmission is on to inspect anything. So I don't like it. So and it was kind of bent and dented from when it came with the thing. So you know, the question is, which one do you use? And honestly, looking at them, they are pretty much identical. So let me just put them side by side here. There you go. Pretty much identical. This one has a higher area, but that's for like an automatic transmission. So this one for sure is gonna match perfectly with the S54 because that's what it came off with. So I am going with this, just in case anybody had a question which one to use. This is original 3S Caldina. This is the 5S original to the S54 transmission. So we're going with this one, okay? So it goes on pretty easy. There are 2 pins here. So you just slip this on, line this up, and it goes in, and then it's held on with a 10mm bolt right here. So I'm gonna put some Loctite in here because I don't want this thing coming out accidentally and basically jamming the clutch or messing up. I mean, if this bolt falls out, this could cause some serious problems. So I'm gonna put this guy in, tighten it up real good. And that is the plate. So don't forget your plate. Alright, and then after this, we get to the flywheel. Alright guys, so I know we promised to get a whole bunch of work done on this video, but as I'm looking at the time lapse and the time, well, not time lapse, but the length of this video, I'm realizing it's going to be too long to do everything I just did, what you just saw, and get the clutch and everything put on. So we're going to end here. You just saw the backing plate go on, and we're going to move on to the basically just the clutch install, which is the flywheel, pressure plate, and disc. So you're going to see that in the next video. So I'm going to call this a part 1, and then we're going to move on to part 2. So I hope you guys appreciate that, so the videos are not too long, and just hang in there. You're going to see it come right up. So part 2, we're probably going to roll it out the next day because we're doing this all in one shot, but just want to, like I said, just don't want to get the video too long. So thanks for watching, subscribers. Much appreciated, and I see you on the next one, part 2.